Yesterday, Far Cry 5 was finally released after months of controversy, excitement, and overall interest from the gaming community. I've personally been waiting for this game since its reveal. I decided to wait for the first day until the reviews came out and then make my decision, and after watching some gameplay, reading reviews, and getting a general feel for the game and what it will offer me, I figured that it was matching up with what I hoped for when I saw it for the first time and went ahead and purchased. But while I did this, I realized there was one glaring issue that was being brought up constantly in reviews. Far Cry 5 is a game primed to have a deeper, more defined political and social message, yet the story seems to dodge around these topics instead of tackling them head on. Many reviews seem to state that Far Cry 5 is destined to have an agenda behind it, which from the reveal it seemed that it did have a deeper political message than what it may. When the game was first announced to be taking place in the fictional Hope County, Montana here in the United States, it was already new to the series. When the campaign was unveiled to center on a cult known as Eden's Gate that is, more or less based on a far-right Christian militant group, it caused a little bit of controversy. There was even a petition that actually cited that the game unfairly portrayed white Christian Americans and suggested that instead people of Islamic faith or inner-city gang members become a replacement. Thankfully, Ubisoft did not bow to this obviously stupid and weak-pointed online movement, and the original plot of the game has survived, or at least what we know of it. I understand where a lot of the criticism of the game apparently not saying enough is coming from, but at the same time, it doesn't really quite make sense. The game has many clear messages behind it, they're interwoven carefully into the game. For instance, don't use violence to coerce people into following your cult, or don't take everything that a pastor or charismatic person tells you straight to the heart and to think about things for yourself. It's clear that if the characters had followed messages like this, the plot of the game is a lot less likely to have even unfolded, and I don't understand how people who are paid to analyze games and review them seem to have missed this message entirely. However, Far Cry 5 could have done a much better job in bringing these details into better light, or, finding a way to expand the story even more based on these messages and the plot that they had written. I have played the game some, and from the time that I've put in so far, the game and its story, they don't feel incomplete to me. I'm sure there's a few bugs that, they're going to patch in the coming weeks, but I can't say that I agree with the reviews. These reviewers are disheartened because the game did not come out entirely in one stance. Instead, it chose to weave these messages deeper into the plot and the open world around the player. The game does not force-feed you a political viewer stance, and I think maybe that's why people are feeling a little unsatisfied with the game. In retrospect, I'm glad that the game doesn't come straight out and tell me what to think and how to behave. I'm glad that the story is written the way that it is, because I'm an American citizen, right? And I already realize that right-wing and left-wing cults and terrorists exist, okay? I already realize that there have been plenty of people with just outlandish political views who have taken refuge in the mountains and made cults. I'm aware of the Branch Davidians, the Montana Freemen, Heaven's Gate, all of them, We've been through events like the Waco Siege and all kinds of different things. Ruby Ridge, these have all happened, we know this. These are very popular in our culture, we know. I don't need a video game to tell me that these issues exist, okay? All of us in the United States are well aware of the political landscape of our country, and we don't need this game to make a statement on it. That doesn't mean per se that it shouldn't, but I think it does, and people are just kind of missing these messages throughout the game. I feel like these reviews are more about spoon-feeding the information through this game instead of allowing you to figure it out on your own through actually playing the game. And while it's valid to say that the story is not what you expected, it's less sensible to say that the game is worse because it doesn't hand you everything on a silver platter story-wise. In fact, I feel like campaigns and stories in gaming over the last few years have been doing this too often. If there's no sense of enjoyment and freedom to grasp a story on your own terms, if there's no ability to actually figure it out by yourself and finally have everything in a story click together for that first time, there's much less enjoyment to the game. Compare the current state of the game to a story that would be like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, in which everything you figure out is just through a sequence of cutscenes and pointless and boring missions. Thankfully, Far Cry 5 allows you to explore the world, and you can unlock new missions and areas, and you can just find things to explore by talking to the people in the community. You can get a better grasp on what's going on in Hope County by just exploring and meeting the townspeople, and when crucial parts of the story hide in missions, you're kicking asses and tearing shit up in the process, and it's fun. I've also seen a lot of people saying that the story being lackluster makes the rest of the game less valuable, and I don't think people are truly grasping the game and getting it for what it really is. You have the entire map to explore. Granted, it isn't some huge map, but it isn't some little sliver boring map, okay? There's enough to it to enjoy. Then you have arcade machines throughout the entire game, right? And when you use these, you can play and create custom maps and scenarios in, right? And these machines, right, they have assets from Far Cry 4, Primal, 5. I mean, you can really create some pretty badass shit. Granted, you need a little bit of time and experience, but you can do it. The game has so much replayability that you can play it for years past this. I mean, games with features like this can last for decades, and the fact that it has co-op and multiplayer features is even better. The game has plenty to offer, and even if you don't enjoy the way the story went, you know, it doesn't mean that the rest of the gameplay suffers as a whole. The game has loads of content to enjoy, loads of wildlife to look at and deal with. There's a bear named Cheeseburger. I mean, the game really has plenty if we're being realistic. I don't have a problem with people not enjoying the game or the story, and I don't even have a problem with people saying the gameplay isn't what they wanted, but I have to disagree when they say that this game isn't sending a deep enough message. If you need a game to dictate to you the religious cults that force you to join and take over communities and whole entire areas over a conspiracy theory is bad enough and that America is in a political state of ruin at the moment, then perhaps the game really isn't the issue here. So let's not say that Far Cry 5 doesn't say enough. Let's not even say that it says too much. Instead, let's look at it for what it is. A decent game with hidden gems in the gameplay that some people may not pick up and some people may be offended over. If the message of the game offends you and you think that it's okay to instead pin all the things that offended you on another religion like Muslims, you're part of the problem. Instead of letting a video game divide us over the message, let's learn to accept messages that conflict with our political views. Let's go ahead and make sure that we learn to defeat them logically instead of resorting to try and censor a work of art because you don't like it. Also, let's make sure that we realize that the problems that the game portrays are real life problems and ones that we as Americans need to fix. I believe that if we took this stance first instead of trying to tear down a game that serves a purpose well and speaks a message that we need to hear, we'd probably get a lot more things done in the real world. And yes, at the end of the day, it's just a video game. It can have real life impact when messages start getting noticed, but it is meant to be enjoyed. You're supposed to relax and enjoy the game for the entertainment that it can bring you. I mean, don't get so offended over a video game. It's okay to be critical, but it's not okay to try and censor things that you don't like. This goes for all beliefs, okay? Far Cry 5 points this out very well. A cult full of wackos who are so bent out of shape over their own beliefs have created such a large problem in their community that now the government has to get involved to take them down. And I think that the messages that it serves speak plenty for the game. And if the game left you feeling like more could have been said, that's entirely fine. But to say that it had to be in order to be good just isn't true. This game plays well, it's enjoyable, and it has plenty to do to keep you playing it for a long time. I think we're going to look back on this game much more favorably after it's aged a little bit, even if it already has decent reviews by most. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and soon I will be streaming some Far Cry 5, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and make sure you're turning on notifications. And until my next video, guys, enjoy Far Cry 5 if you've got it, and this is Optimus, signing out.